Good morning, everyone, from Santiago, Chile. My name is Juan Carlos Araneda. I am Deputy Planning Manager at the National Electric Coordinator of Chile. On behalf of everyone who works in our organization, I would like to thank you for attending this roadshow for the international tender process for the Kimal HVDC project. The hundreds of people who are connected right now via our website reflect the substantial interest in this major transmission project, which is an enabling factor in the decarbonization process towards reaching the goal of carbon neutrality by 2050. I would like to emphasize that the HVDC project includes the construction of a 1,500 kilometer long bipolar transmission line plus minus 600 kV with a capacity of 3,000 megawatts, a dedicated metallic return, and two converter stations located in the area of the existing Kimal and Loaguirre substations, connecting the northern and central areas of Chile's electricity system. To share some introductory words on the importance and benefits of this project, I leave you with the President of the Board at the National Electric Coordinator, Mr. Juan Carlos Olmedo.
Thank you, Juan Carlos. Mr. Francisco Lopez, Energy Undersecretary of Chile. Mr. Jaime Peralta, Board Member at the National Electric Coordinator. Good morning to everyone. Last June, the International Energy Agency published the Sustainable Recovery Report that recommends countries adopt actions to expand and modernize transmission networks because they are the key element to reduce carbon intensity in the electricity sector, being also a part of the post-pandemic sustainable recovery strategy. In this context, the National Electric Coordinator has recently started the international tender process for HVDC transmission project Kimal-Loaguirre, achieving an important milestone for the national power grid and contributing to the sustainable economic recovery of the energy sector from the effects of the pandemic. Chile is committed with the decarbonization process of the energy generation matrix, which implies the gradual decommissioning of all existing coal-fired plants by 2040, and whose generation capacity will be replaced by new power plants based on renewable sources. Given the geographic distribution of these resources in the country, which are far away from the main consumption center, it is important to develop a power grid, both national and zonal, that is reliable, flexible, and resilient to the effects of climate change. Thus, the National Electric Coordinator proposed to the authority 49 grid improvements project with an investment value of $357 million to be considered in the 2020 transmission expansion plan. Additionally, we have started the tender process for the HVDC transmission project Kimal-Loaguirre, which has been named the Decarbonization Line Project, as it will be a main facilitator of this process in the country. The relevance and urgency of this project is due to the nature, location, and rapid growth of our renewable resources in the country. There is a huge potential of renewable resources for power generation located in the north part of the country, which has led to a fast and intense development of solar and wind renewable projects. In addition, our transmission system has an extension of 3,000 kilometers in a radial configuration, which means a high level of energy flowing towards the central zone of the country through a 500 kV AC corridor, which is fully loaded most of the time, causing some transmission congestion at some times of the day. The Kimal-Loaguirre project, the first of its kind in high voltage direct current in Chile, that will operate in parallel to the existing 500 kV AC corridor, will facilitate the decarbonization process currently underway in our country, helping to achieve our long-term goal of reaching carbon neutrality by 2050. Chile has a competitive and transparent electricity market with a regulatory framework based on highly efficient free market principle. The development of projects that are part of the national transmission system pays a stable stream of revenues for 20 years for awarded bidders, leveraging solvent project finance structure. Finally, I would like to thank all the companies, developers, investors, technology vendors, consultants, and other organizations from power industry worldwide that are connected to this virtual roadshow for your interest in the tender process. Thank you very much.
I would like to remember you, if you have any question, please send via our website. The HVDC project Kimal Aguirre will not connect a single generation project, nor will it serve a limited number of such projects or loads. It will rather enable the northern system in Chile to be united with the center of the country for the transportation of renewable energy, mainly solar and wind, from many different generation projects run by different developers, increasing the competition in this sector. To speak about the opportunities that this project will bring to all investors, developers, technology vendors, and EPC and transmission companies, both national and foreign, I will now hand you over to Chile's Energy Undersecretary, Mr. Francisco Lopez. Good morning, Mr. Undersecretary.
Good morning, Juan Carlos. Thank you very much. Mr. Juan Carlos Olmedo, the Board's President, National Electric Coordinator, and Mr. Jaime Peralta, Board's Member of the National Coordinator. And good morning to all of those who join us in this roadshow for the international tender process of Kimal Aguirre HVDC project, an initiative that will allow us to continue modernizing our power system to face the energy transitions towards sustainable development, and will be key in our goal of being carbon neutral before 2050. I really appreciate your interest in this project. This technology, although it has existed in our country for many years, is totally new for Chile. Today, we will have Jaime Peralta present from the Chilean ISO, who will explain the main details of this future transmission line. One great challenge that we face as humans is the fight against climate change, while striving to improve the quality of life of our citizens. The energy transition will play a fundamental role in achieving this ambitious decarbonization, digitalization, and digitalization will be the fundamental pillar of these transitions, together with energy efficiency measures. Energy is the engine of development for any country, and that development must be sustainable and consistent with green growth. In the future, we will need more and better energy to heat our homes, to charge our electric cars and buses, as well as higher level of electrification throughout the economy. As an energy department, we have led efforts to address this challenge and achieve a robust and resilient energy transitions that is capable of adapting to these effects of climate change. Retirement of coal-fired plants, promotion of sustainable industry and building, launch of green hydrogen and e-move strategies, and foster more and better energy efficiency procedures are the main emissions mitigation measures we have implemented. These measures have a common fact in that they are based on greater electrification. This greater power demand, by the way, poses many challenges for us within the sector, and a robust and resilient electrical transmissions allow for increasing levels of competition in power projects, as well as improving safety and quality of service, tending to enable a greater integration of renewable energy and guarantee fairer rates for the whole society. On this topic, Chile has set to total withdrawal of coal-fired power plants before 2040 as a goal. This plan has a feasible and ambitious plans, first phase of withdrawal, which will allow us the exit of at least 11 plants before 2024, almost 1,800 megawatts, equivalent to more than 30% of the total coal capacity that we had in 2019. Also, to replace that energy We are promoting actions to accelerate the entry of more renewable plants, which of course requires joint efforts to incorporate more electrical transmissions. Our forecast shows us that to reach our carbon neutrality goal, it is necessary to electrify a large part of the energy matrix, which ensuring that the power generation system is increasingly renewable. This will result in power consumption increasing by more than 35% by 2050, compared to the business as usual scenario, which does not include environmental and social measures such as carbon neutrality. We know that energy has a fundamental role in the challenge of being carbon neutral, from power generation with renewable sources to the efficiency of the use of that energy. The HVDC system's constructive characteristics make it possible to transmit higher levels of power over long distance through sustainable corridors, occupying less physical space than the alternative in alternate current. Since the transmission towers are smaller and require fewer cables, thus they allow for more sustainable growth of the electricity grid, in tune with our environmental goal for commitments. This project will be able to transport renewable power up to 3,000 megawatts over 1,500 kilometers of the country, enable sustainable decarbonization by efficiently connecting the north and the center-south of the country. A relevant fact, Kimal project will be one of the first HVDC lines in the world to transport a large amount of solar energy. The project concept was achieved thanks to a shared vision with active citizens' participation. We put the objective of expanding the power system at the center with a focus on sustainability and efficiency. We want Kimal project international bidding process to be carried out in the best possible way, with high levels of competition, and to bring together the best power transmission developers in the world. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention, and have a great day. And we are open to discuss all the doubts that you have today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Undersecretary. Finally, I am going to hand over to National Electric Coordinator's board member, Mr. Jaime Peralta, who is going to present an overview of the tender process, including the process timeline, as well as key aspects of the bidding terms and conditions and technical specifications for the project. Good morning, Jaime.
Morning, Juan Carlos. I'm going to start sharing my screen here. Can you see it?
Perfect.
Okay, thanks, Juan Carlos. And well, first of all, I would like to thank the Undersecretary of Energy, Mr. Francisco Lopez, and Juan Carlos Olmedo, President of the National Electric Coordinator, for the introductory words and remarks. And of course, thanks to everyone who has joined us today in this international roadshow for your interest in this process. So the goal of my presentation is to provide an overview of the tender process for the first HVDC project named Kimal Lo Aguirre. Well, just for those who don't know much about our organization, we are the National Electric Coordinator. We are the Chilean Independent System Operator, a technical organization responsible for the reliable, secure, and economic operation of the national electric system. So that's our main goal. And of course, we also need to ensure open access to the transmission system. We have other functions as well related to managing the wholesale energy capacity and ancillary services market. We play an important role also in proposing the expansion plan for the transmission system to the authority, and also, of course, conducting the international tender process for the new transmission projects. We also have other functions related with monitoring market competition and also promoting innovation, research, and development. Well, it's before I dig into the project and the tender process, it's good to mention a brief summary of the energy transition that we are living in our country. And the best way to do it is through these four main drivers that some of them were mentioned already by the Undersecretary and also Juan Carlos. And the key one, of course, is the decarbonization process and the massive integration of renewable energy. So we do have a plan to decarbonize our energy mix by 2040, and of course, give entrance to a integration of renewable energy generation, and all that with the goal of achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. Of course, to achieve that goal, we need infrastructure, not only generation facilities that are going to be replacing all this coal fleet that's going to be retired from the system, but also the transmission infrastructure that is required to approach all these renewable resources that are remotely located in our country to the main load centers. And of course, we need a secure and flexible and reliable power grid to enable that. And we believe also that digitalization and smart grids are going to play an important role in this energy transition process. And a few numbers here related to the transmission development in our country. We have if we look at the last 10 years, we have bid about $2,800 million in projects in transmission, and if just for the next 5 years, the number is even higher. It's $3.2 billion, and this number is mostly driven by this HVDC project that we're discussing today. When we talk about transmission infrastructure that is required, of course, is an infrastructure that we call it sustainable, right? And what does that mean? Basically, on one side, it has to be an efficient infrastructure, right? So we need to integrate transmission at the lowest cost possible, because at the end, it's the final customer who's going to pay for this. So we also need that this infrastructure arrives on time. We know that there is a gap between the development period of generation, particularly renewable generation facilities, which takes three to 5 years to build, as compared to transmission infrastructure, which is probably 5, 7, even 10 years to be built. So that is why it's very important that this infrastructure arrives on time, so we avoid having congestion and eventually curtailment of renewables. We also want this infrastructure is environmentally friendly. There is a difference between AC and DC technology, particularly for the same level of power that needs to be transported. And that is why this is very important as well, and also has to be reliable and flexible. So the conjunction of all these aspects that are making this sustainable transmission infrastructure is this project, the HVDC project Kimal. Some of the benefits of the project we heard already from the Undersecretary and also from Juan Carlos, but of course, most important is the integration of large amounts of renewable energy, mostly solar, coming from the north part of our country, and it will be the enabler and facilitator of the decarbonization process. We named this project as the line of the decarbonization because it's pursuing that goal. Then allowing also exchange between the main load centers, so that's going to increase also competition at the generation level, making the grid more robust, resilient, and also improve their performance against faults, make it more stable, and why not to enable future regional interconnections with our neighbors. And of course, as I mentioned before, it's not the same, building AC transmission lines as compared to DC from this level of capacity. Well, these are the general characteristics of the project. In terms of the technology, our preferred technology is LCC. I'm going to explain a little bit later how we made that decision. It's a bipolar system with dedicated metallic return in the same structure, a nominal capacity of 3,000 megawatts. Eventually, at some level of overload may be required, and this is part of the studies that we're currently conducting. And it's point-to-point 1,500 kilometers long link at DC voltage level of 600 kV. The construction period is 84 months, and we expect that this project is going to start the operation by the end of the year 2028. Well, here are some of the justifications of the main characteristics. Basically, at 3,000 megawatts, why not greater? Well, going higher capacities like 4,000 megawatts, really we start seeing an increase of the operational risk in the system. We have to bear in mind that the peak load in the Chilean grid is 10 to 11,000 megawatts. So having 40% during peak demand, which could be actually 70% during a minimum load, it starts to introduce an operational risk, indicates that something happened to that line. And also we need to bear in mind that we have limited source pool levels as well in the Kimal area, which is the northern part of the country where most of the mining industry is located, and also most of the renewable resources are located. So then lower than 3,000, it's, well, if we choose 2,000 megawatts, we have an additional operation overload of 20% at least, causing more congestion and curtailment of renewables. Then, well, why LCC technology is we did the technical and economic evaluation where we arrived that it's the lowest cost option, is approved solution for the level of capacity and voltage level that we're proposing, which is 3,600 kV. And we also require some overload to the system to comply with the N-1 criteria in the system, which is limited to the VSC technology. And also we have a minimum time to recover from DC faults that also is complicated to achieve by VSC technology at this level of capacity. And also we have to have a competitive tender. So we understand there are very few technology vendors that are capable to provide a solution at this level of capacity in a technology that VSC technology, which is the alternative to LCC. So those are the main reasons why we choose the LCC technology. And we also explored at some point a multi-terminal link, and we also arrived to the same conclusion in terms of cost. It's much more costly, and also introduce some operational complexity, particularly if we are talking about the LCC technology. Well, voltage level, it comes from the decree from the Ministry of Energy. Was at least 600 kV, and we after the studies that we conducted, we estimated that 600 is the optimal voltage level. Moving to the next level, like 800, this is really for much greater capacities. And staging, basically, because of the loading that this line is going to have by 2029, it's going to reach its maximum capacity in 3 to 5 years. So basically, staging is not justified. We lose all the economies of scales, and also we introduce complexities during the commissioning of the projects in the second stage, basically delaying all the economic benefits of the project. And here is a couple of graphs showing on the left side we have the expected maximum power flow going from Kimal to Aguirre by the time the project is commissioned. And as you can see, we exceeded the 2,000 megawatts by 2029, and we expect to reach maximum capacity by 2035 or so. Mostly, the power flow is going to go mostly Kimal to Aguirre direction. However, on the right side, we can see the intraday flows that actually confirm that, depending on the scenario, but in most cases, power flow is going to go from Kimal to Aguirre, but it's going to invert or revert during the day one or twice eventually. We have a lot of work going on. We are still running the system studies. We hope to finalize those by the end of this year or early next year. As you already may know, we are working with a Canadian company, Transmit Solutions, who is helping us to develop these studies and also preparing the technical specifications of the converter stations. And we're also working with local consulting firm that is helping us to develop the basic design for the transmission line, and also we come up with the cost estimate for the project. And we're also in parallel collecting a lot of system data, reviewing the requirements, grid codes, and preparing the databases in Power Factory Silent, which is going to be provided for during the bidding phase studies, so that the proponents can conduct their studies. And also we're planning to update data on harmonic impedances by the end of January, as well as adding more measurements of background harmonics at Kimal and Kimal. Well, this is the schedule, the calendar for the tender process. We achieved already the first two milestones. The first one, in October 26th, we opened the registry for interested parties, which had access to the preliminary bidding terms and conditions, as well as the technical specifications, which were released by November 23rd. We provided this period for comments to from the interested parties, and that period is going to end of this month, in a couple of weeks. And with that, we're going to review. It wasn't a Q&A sort of a process. We're not answering those comments or questions. It's just we're going to take on that review and decide whether we need to update or not our preliminary bidding terms and conditions and technical specifications. Then the next milestone, it's the actual participant registry that's going to be open in February the 1st, and we are going to release the final bidding package with the definite terms and conditions and technical and all the attachments, including the technical specifications. So with that opportunity, of course, the participants will have to purchase the bidding package at a cost of, I believe, $1,300 US. Then, well, there will be a period of question and answers, of course, and the deadline for the submission of the proposal is the first week of August 2021, hoping to award the project by the end of October 2021. Well, we received, we registered more than 100 organizations. I understand most of them must be or shall be or would be connected today, hopefully. And different type of organizations, utilities, technology vendors, consultants, developers, investors. So a lot of interest on the project, which is good. Okay, so on the preliminary bidding terms and conditions that we issued back in October, it includes all the general characteristics of the project that I just mentioned, all the issues related to guarantees, the opening and awarding process, guaranteed performance, experience, and HVDC milestones, and the requirements for the consortia that needs to be created in some cases, and all the technical attachments, technical specification, etc. We issued the official language, of course, of this tender is Spanish, but we issued a version in English just as a reference. Okay, some things that we can highlight from the terms and conditions, more on the administrative part. We have guarantees, of course, like any process. We have three types of guarantees: during the bidding process, execution, and operation. So during bidding process, of course, we require for the guarantee for seriousness of the bid, which is 2% of the referential BI, which is the value of investment estimated in our terms and conditions, and that gives a number close to $30 million. And also there is a promise to incorporate the SAGIT, which is a exclusive transmission business corporation, and that is for $2 million. Then we have a guarantees during project execution. Basically, it's milestone compliance, that's 2% of the referential BI. a little bit more than $20 million, and that is by milestones. So basically, every time a milestone is completed, we return guarantee, and then we receive a new one for the next milestone. And we have 10 in our terms and conditions. Effective execution and penalties for delays at the start of operation. That's 8% of the referential VI, and which gives an amount of approximately $94 million. While penalties for delays on the start of operation is 0.068% of the referential VI per day. And finally, we have guarantees during operation, which is its performance type of guarantees, and also for correct operation, that's 3% of the VI, and it's basically focused on three aspects: of course, availability and reliability, which it has to be 98.5% measured on a per year basis, and converter station losses as well, no greater than 0.7%, and also closing all pending issues, like what we know as punch list, within the first 12 months of operation. Some aspects on the consortia, as I mentioned before, if it's not a company that is already operating in Chile as a transmission company, SAGET needs to be created, which is the Spanish acronym for an exclusive transmission business corporation, and the successful bidder will have to own 99.9% of this SAGET, and needs to last at least during the construction period and up to 36 months following the start of operation. And this SAGET needs to be incorporated no more than 30 days following the award decree. Financial background must be justified, and whoever is justifying this financial background must have 30% of participation in this consortium, and where the minimum capital or equity is 1/3 of the referential VI, which is something close to $400 million. The risk classification has to be at least, again, for the organization, justifying financial background of minimum BB at international scale or BBB at national scale. And at least one of the legal entities in the consortium must have HVDC and HVDC experience. The participation, again, is 30%, and it must have operation experience on HVAC and facilities up to 20 kV or higher, and also operation experience on the operation or execution of HVDC LCC project of similar characteristics to the one that we're bidding. And it's, of course, they need to demonstrate a performance of an average of at least 97% and being commissioned within the last 15 years. Now, we have received a lot of comments in general, in terms of, well, not quite a lot actually, but this is an aspect that where we are receiving a lot of comments actually on the experience. So that is something that probably we will review, and in the final version of the terms and conditions. Well, also on the bids, of course, we have administrative, technical, and economic bid. The economic bid, of course, is the VATT, the annual value of transmission, which is it's composed by the annuity of the value of investment plus the COMA, which is the cost of operation, maintenance, and administration, and that's basically going to be the tariff that the successful bidder is going to receive for 20 years. And the scope of work is a full scope. It's design, engineering, procurement, construction, testing, and commissioning, and all land acquisition, easement, negotiations, right-of-way, and any type of permitting also is responsibility of the proponents or the successful bidder, as well as compliance, of course, with all the environmental regulation in our country. So as I mentioned before, we issued the preliminary technical specifications in November 23rd. These were annexes 4, 5, and 6 from the bidding terms and conditions. And basically, it has 3 parts. The first one is the general technical specifications and also the requirements for the connection or the links between the new converter stations and the existing substations in Kimal and Lo Aguirre. We define a perimeter or radius of 5 kilometers around these existing substations to locate the new converter stations. One case, 2 double circuit lines on 20 kV shall be built to connect to Kimal, and a 1 double circuit 500 kV line to connect to Lo Aguirre. And of course, all the proponent or the successful bidder will have to take care of all the upgrades at the existing substations, meaning the base and additional positions for the arrival of these new AC lines. And then Annex 5 is where the HVDC functional technical specifications are included. It's basically the requirements for the converter stations and the DC transmission line, and also, of course, all the information about the system, requirements, studies to be provided both during the bidding and also during design stages. And the Annex 6 includes all the technical data sheets, basically for AC, DC equipment, and also for performance. Those also needs to be completed during the bidding stage. Well, here we have a drawing of the electric system in the area of influence of the project, which is drawn in red. That's the DC line between Kimal and Lo Aguirre. So we have a parallel 500 kV transmission line, double circuit, that runs from Kimal to Lo Aguirre. And also we have parallel corridor into 20 kV. So as I said before, the area around Kimal is where most of the renewable resources are located. Also, it's the big, I mean, the mine industry, so it's the second major load in the country. Then in between Kimal and Lo Aguirre, we have a lot of renewables, particularly wind resources. And also, then as we move to Lo Aguirre, is where the Santiago area with the major load center is located. And then if we move to the right, we'll find all the hydro and also wind resources that are available in our system. And there is on the right side, there's a couple of pictures as well of the existing substation. On the top is Lo Aguirre, and at the bottom is Kimal's existing substations. Okay, so coming to the end of my presentation, all the information is available in our website about the process, and also we enable this email address during this period of preliminary bidding terms and conditions. We have received a lot of comments. That period closes by the end of this month, and then we will take January to basically review the final version of the technical specifications, which will be issued by the end of by February 1st, which is the day when this process starts with the registration of the proponents that are going to present a bid to this project. Yeah, and that's all from my side. Well, thank you so much for your attention. And I understand that we have some time for questions right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jaime. Certainly, we have received some questions, and I would like to deliver the first question we received. First one is from the level of penalties by delay described in the tender documents. Is the company having the possibility to ask for a delay if they have a problem with the permits or the use of force majeure?
Here we didn't make any changes to what we usually do for the tender process of a transmission expansion project. We are taking the same terms and conditions that we used in the past, and of course that includes a possibility to for the proponent, well, for the successful bidder to propose an extension of one of the milestones, as long as it's particularly intermediate milestone, as long as the final date is not moved. And even if that was the case, I understand also that they can claim a force majeure if that occurs.
Okay, thank you, Jaime. I've got a second question that has two parts. First, in the transmission planning in the medium and long term, how is it modeled the distribution of electricity?
The distribution of electricity? Well, maybe that's a question that you can answer, Juan Carlos, better than me.
Yeah, perfect.
Please go ahead.
Currently, we model a simplified zonal transmission grid, where distribution is located in the main zonal substations. We don't have an integration, for example, in our economic transmission models or in Dixieland integrating transmission and distribution grids together. And the third question is related to that. Does it include only loads or generation? In what degrees? Well, I would ask, I would answer here that we are modeling distributed generation for the first time because it's an increasing new factor that has been added to the distribution grids. And the long-term forecasting is a matter of planning that we are delivering for the next annual proposals that we are going to deliver to the National Energy Commission. But our idea is to continue integrating transmission and distribution because we know that part of the generation will be allocated at the distribution level. And finally, we have a fourth question. Is it sought to extend the deadline for presentation of the offers because of the extension of the project?
Well, that is something that we have to evaluate when during the period of question and answers. I can anticipate that we basically have 2 or 3 months to that we give us ourselves to do the evaluation. It's going to be it's a complex process, so we're requesting a lot of information to be provided with the bids, with the technical bids. So it's something that we need to evaluate at some point. So that's why actually we issued this preliminary version of the terms and conditions so that the interested parties could start preparing their proposals in advance. But again, it's something that we have to review during the period of question and answer, whether we have space for delaying the 2 to 4 of August, which I believe is the period defined for the moment to submission of the bids.
Okay, thank you very much, Jaime. And to finalize, just perhaps you can remember to the audience the next deadline we have. Just remember what's the next step.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I would like to remind everyone who is registered as an interested party that they have time till the end of December to provide comments. As I said before, we're not answering the comments. That was not the purpose, but we are reading all of them, and we're going to make sure that if there is anything that is important and is relevant, and of course we're going to analyze, evaluate, and consider whether to include them or modify the terms and conditions. That's one thing. Please use the email that is, I believe, is on the screen now. Use that email to provide your comments. they're more than welcome. And the next milestone is February 1st, where the official registry for participants, so basically the organizations that are going to present an offer, is going to be open, and the final bidding package as well is going to be made available to all the interested participants.
Thank you, Jaime. Because we have some minutes, we have received 2 additional questions. The first one, are there any problems for generation companies to invest in the project?
I mean, it's all this is the vertical integration is all regulated in our regulations. So basically, of course, whichever company that wants to invest will have to make sure that they comply with all the requirements in our regulation, particularly those aspects related to vertical integration. Those are more than clear in our electricity law.
Perfect. And finally, there is a question really from the government point of view. Is the government going to intervene if any disputes related to easements?
Well, I don't know. I don't understand very well the question, but the process is the same process that we follow for any project. It's very well known by, at least most of the companies that have invested already in our country. Basically, the successful bidder is going to be responsible for the negotiating, for environmental studies, for the getting the land, for the substations, and also negotiation of right-of-ways and easements with the owners or with the government when it comes to public land. It's always responsibility of the owners, not the responsibility of the state or the government.
Thank you very much, Jaime. Again, I would like to thank to the coordinator's board member, Mr. Jaime Peralta, the Chilean Energy Undersecretary, Mr. Francisco Lopez, and the President of the Board of Coordinator, Mr. Juan Carlos Olmedo, for being with us this morning. And thank you very much to everyone who has joined us in this roadshow. The presentations will be available from today at our website, www.coordinador.cl. And the broadcast of this event will be also available at Coordinator's YouTube channel. Thank you very much to everyone, and bye-bye.